Hey there, it's Mr. Vmore, and I wanted to show you in this video examples from our chapter 2. So chapter 2 is organizing and summarizing data. We have two sections. We organize qualitative, and then we will also organize quantitative data. So by the end of this video, you should be able to organize those data and construct bar graphs, construct pie charts, and also we're gonna construct histograms of discrete data, organize continuous data in tables, construct histograms of continuous data, draw stem and leaf plots, and identify the shape of a distribution. So let's get started. First of all, if we can remember, qualitative data is basically from the root word quality, which is just a characteristic. No numerical values here that we are measuring, or any quantity, or weighing anything, or counting. So the first section is about qualitative data. So we're going to construct frequency table, frequency distribution table, and construct bar graphs and pie charts. So in this example, the 2010 census results include a summary of the racial composition of the population. The races reported by the populations of the United States and the state of California are summarized in this data, and this data are given in millions. So as you can see, white is in the US 223.6 million, and in the state of California we got 21.5 million. And then the black or African American, we got 38.9 million in the US and 2.3 million in California, and so on. So our first task is to construct a relative frequency distribution for the races in the US. So that means we're going to use this data. So in terms of organizing it, we have two types of tables: frequency table and relative frequency table. Keep in mind, frequency table is essentially a count, and a relative frequency is a proportion relative to the whole. So since our task on A is constructing a relative frequency distribution, meaning we're going to use the formula. Let me just write the formula here. So relative frequency table is equal to the frequency over the sum of all the frequencies. So that means what we need is the frequency, so we already have that up here, and also we need sum of all frequencies. So that means we're gonna add this all up, this frequency, and we're gonna use that then as our denominator to find the relative frequency. So I have this pre-made table up here. So all we need to do is to use the frequency and divide it to the sum of all the frequencies. So we're going to use a calculator here to find quickly our total. So I'm going to add this all up. We got 223.6 plus 38.9. Remember, these are all in millions. Plus 2.9 plus 14.7 plus 0.5 and then plus 19.1 plus 9, and we have 308.7. So the total right here of the US is 308.7 million. That's for our US, and we're going to use that total to find our frequency. So for example, for the white race, the frequency is going to be 223.6, and then we're gonna use our total to get the relative frequency, which is 308.7. Alright, using our calculator, let's divide 223.6 divided by 308.7. So it should give us 0.724. I usually take 3 decimal places. So you're going to repeat the same process for Black or African American. So for the Black or African American, you're going to use 38.9 divided by your sum, which frequency, which is 308.7, and it should give you 0.1261. And I have loaded over here to make it faster. So we have all these relative frequency distribution. Now, next question for B is what percentage of U.S. residents claims 2 or more races? So you can find it here in our table. It's looking for 2 or more races. So we're referring to this one. And since this is all in decimal form, for us to be able to change the decimal form into percentage, keep in mind you're just going to need to move your decimal point twice to the right. So if this is your decimal point, just move it 2 times to the right, and you should have 2.92%. So that's for our letter B. So we have 2.92%. For letter C, what percentage of the U.S. residents is not Asian? So right here, Asian is in decimal form. That will be 4.75%. Moving 2 decimal places to the right, that would change it to 4.75%. So since it's asking for not Asian, so since we have 4.75 who are Asian, we just want to take this away from 100, and it should give us our answer. So you got 100% minus 4.75%, and it will give us 95.25%. If you want to use your calculator, you can, of course. So percentage of U.S. residents that are not Asian is 95.25%. All right, that's it. All right, for the next question, we have to construct a frequency bar graph for races in the U.S. So going back to our example in the data, so we're going to be using this U.S. right here, and we are not using the relative frequency. It says frequency bar graph. So we will be using this data right here, and I already pre-typed that in our Excel because we're going to use Excel to construct our frequency bar graph. So right here, as you can see, I typed that up here in our information and our data. So we have the races on this column, first column, and then the count, the frequency on the second column. So for us to be able to construct the frequency bar graph, all you need to do is to highlight your data and then choose insert, and then you'll see under the insert column or bar chart. So click that. You can choose 2D column, 3D. It's up to you whether you want to be fancy or not. You can choose which model it is. I'm going to choose 2D column up here, and I'm going to change the title to races in the US. Oops. Let me do it again. So I'm going to change the title to races in the US. Races in the US. All right. So right here, that's going to be our frequency distribution bar graph. So if you want to just cut paste, so just highlight and then copy. If you want to copy it to our presentation, you can. And then let me see if that's going to work here. Paste it here. So there we go. So this is our frequency bar graph. There you go. And then for constructing a relative frequency, so it's relative frequency, so it's talking about the percentage. So I'm going to go back to our Excel. Again, I already pre-typed that in our Excel, in my Excel. So this is the relative frequency, and all I need to do is the same process. So highlight the data that you want to show your bar graph. So click, I'm going to use 2D again. Of course, we're going to have the same graph. So, but this time on the left side, the vertical axis is going to be the percentage or the decimal form. So I'm going to change my title to races in the US. Alright, same thing. I'm going to copy this graph to my presentation and paste it. You should have it here. So you see the difference on the for the frequency bar graph is just a count. So on the vertical axis we have the number, and then the races on the horizontal. And for the relative frequency bar graph, we have on the vertical, we are using the percentages or the decimal form, and then on the horizontal axis we have the categories, the races. And letter F, we are constructing pie chart. So we're going to go to our pie chart for races in the US. So I'm just going to go to our Excel. I'm going to use the frequency distribution. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to highlight it and choose insert. And then I think we have here pie chart also. So right here, the pie chart, choose pie chart. I'm going to use 2D pie chart. And then just going to move it here. Change the title to races in the US. And then just copy paste it to my presentation. And there we go. So it's labeled per color, the races in the US. There you go. That's section 2.1, which is creating frequency, organizing your qualitative data, and then creating frequency and relative frequency bar graphs and pie chart.